Welcome to episode 44 of Thrashcast. My name's Billy, and of course, our trio here today consists of myself, Jim, and Ken. How are you guys doing this evening?
All right, sir.
All
Well,
right,
sir.
cool. Very good, very good. Kudos to Jim with that King Diamond t-shirt tonight. Uh, there we go. Hey,
Nice.
I don't know if you guys saw that. I saw like it wasn't part of my news story, but it just reminded me. There was some clip I saw somewhere today that they're putting the finishing touches King Diamond on the new Merciful Fate album.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
Uh,
demoing it right now.
yeah, I mean,
exactly.
but both albums have been MIA, like they were supposed to come out. So
Apparently, King's working on both, but
yeah, exactly. It's like focus on one, get the one out, and then move on. But
Yeah.
oh well, what can you do? All right, cool. So let's get back to housekeeping items. So where can people find us on Thrashcast? So at www.horrormetalsounds.com and of course on YouTube, Horror Metal Sounds at keng.2864. And what's our other platform again? Rumble?
we're Rumble
Oh yeah, Rumble. Yeah,
Rumble.
and Spotify.
and Spotify. Cool. Yeah, and just an ask on our behalfs. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I think most regular watchers know Jim's put in a tough target for us
Yes,
of 1,000
he has.
We've got to pull 400 subs out of somewhere in the next
In March.
minutes. But and then,
Yeah.
of course, like and comment on the individual videos. Much appreciated, and it really does help our channel to grow. So, in terms of our agenda today, a band that's long overdue, in my opinion, I think. I was going to say our first Swiss band, but that's not true. Uh,
No, second.
because we covered probably their biggest one already.
Yes.
But we're doing Coroner. And then the album we've selected, at least for me, it was tough to pick which album to do because there's so many good ones. But we're going to do the maybe their most well known or what many consider the classic Punishment for Decadence from 1988.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
so
cover.
two album covers. Like, I don't know, Ken, do you know the story behind that?
Yeah, well,
I
this
think
is
mine's the original, right?
right. That's the Rodin. They use the
Yeah.
Rodin sculpture, and then this is like mine is the. I think this is a remaster,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
believe, or a reissue of it.
Yeah, I
I
don't know the
I
story.
prefer the original cover, to be honest.
I prefer yours.
Yeah, you like that? I kind of
But
like the Rodin cover though. It's because it's Rodin. It's classic sculpture, right?
yeah, my CD is the same as yours, though. I have a CD version that
Yeah, that okay.
is that way too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's striking. It's very
yeah, for
striking.
sure.
You
Yeah,
know, limited colors, but yeah, it's cool.
yeah, I like it. It pops.
Yeah, yeah, it pops.
And then in terms of our top 10, so kind of interesting. Maybe we'll call it one and done. So our favorite, I was going to say thrash metal bands. Many of mine are thrash, but they're definitely
Mine
not
are all thrash.
thrash. So I couldn't do 10 thrash, but basically our favorite one album wonders in the world of heavy metal. So that should be pretty interesting. And then, so let's start with our usual what's spinning and news. I know Ken's got some exciting news, and it's been talked about before. Why don't you start, Ken?
Sure. So I know Billy and I were talking about it before we started recording, but yeah. So what it appears to be that Frankie Bello has said during NAMM this past weekend in California, he was speaking to American Musical Supply, and because he's launched his new signature bass for Spectre. And during the conversation, he said that the album is due out September, October, and they have
Nice.
large touring plans to go along with that. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. There's no official announcement from the band on their website or anything like that, or on Instagram. So I don't know, but I mean that's what he's saying. Hopefully that's true and it doesn't get pushed back again. So that's kind of a like exciting news. We'll have to wait and see.
Is there an album title that it was ever announced?
No, they have not
Oh,
announced an album title yet either. So I'm wondering about that too.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm curious, but
Well, at least we have somewhat of a month, like a couple months date. That'll be good.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know if that means if they're delivering it to the record company on that
Oh,
date, or if it's actually coming out. He didn't specifically say. He said the album is due September, October. So, and I know on Blabbermouth they're saying it's being released September, October.
right.
So I guess some news outlets are pretty much saying it's coming out that time, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then my second news item, Billy kind of mentioned it. I was just going to mention the Merciful Fate because Becky Baldwin was on a recent interview with the Metal Boys, and she was kind of talking about how they're demoing the new material for Merciful Fate, but apparently King is in the middle of writing lyrics for both, like his band, like for King Diamond and for Merciful Fate. So they're kind of waiting on him to finish. So I don't know. Hopefully that's encouraging. Hopefully we may get one or either, or maybe we might not get nothing for 2025. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, I wish he would focus, get one done, then jump back.
Yeah,
to
me too.
Right? He's delaying like both of them from being ready by doing them both.
Yeah. And I know they've actually debuted one new song for Merciful Fate. The Jackal of Salzburg is actually they played it live.
Yeah, I heard
So
that. Yeah,
that's kind of cool. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if you're.
But they're saying that song's going to sound different. That was live, and they say they're retooling it. But yeah, it's just like, man, you've released 2 King Diamond tracks on your last tour. Then you did the Merciful Fate one a year ago. Like, oh man, I figure Merciful Fate would have gone first.
Yeah.
But anyways, this is the way he works. So
yeah.
I think he controls it, and it's all King. So hey,
he's the boss.
Without him, it doesn't go, right?
That's right. Perfectionist, but hey, hopefully what comes out is going to be like amazing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're going to be both good.
I
going to
think
be
so.
good albums. I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
I'm picking up Becky
King
Baldwin
Diamond songs, and the one Merciful Fate was pretty decent. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll be great albums, but
yeah,
it's just whenever the guy gets around to writing all the lyrics, because he's pretty much the only guy writing the lyrics. It's not like he has help; he's doing it all himself.
Yeah.
So that's 2 albums worth to do. That's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I don't even know what his health is like these days. Is he like doing okay? Because he had that the stroke he had a few years back, or was more than a few years ago? I think it wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah.
So I don't know how he's doing, but hopefully he's doing all right. Anyways, that's all I have for tonight, Billy.
Okay, cool. Jim, what do you got for us?
All I've got is what I'm spinning. It's been a pretty lean week. Not much. I got some stuff on pre-order and some weird stuff on pre-order that's been released late last year that's still not available to buy yet. But anyways, I picked this up. Speaking of Creator, our last podcast.
Yeah, I saw most of that. Nice.
Yeah, my remastered Hordes of Chaos. I never had the original, so I don't know. It was hard to get, and I can't remember even if it was available where I am to get. So it was really nice. They remastered it. It's got a really cool. I mean, I'm sure the album. Billy, do you have the album of this remaster? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the liner notes in the CD are really cool. It tells the whole story of recording, lots of photos, and it's a really, really worth it. I mean, the sound-wise, sounds really good. So, I mean, one of my favorite Creator CDs, especially probably even more so my favorite Creator CD of the newer stuff from maybe,
really?
2010 and up. Yeah, I really like it. It's a wicked, wicked CD.
I'm Enemy of God. That's the one.
Enemy of God's great too.
That's my favorite one of the modern stuff.
Yeah. So, but a really good one, and I've got some new stuff coming. Hopefully, I'll have it for our next show. But just some. I tell you one thing though, I've been on a really big Harlot kick from Down Under. Oh yeah.
Who, Jim?
Harlot.
Oh, Harlot. Yeah. Okay.
Oh man, I ordered all their albums. Well, there's only 3, and oh man, I've just been playing it nonstop. I think it was from our podcast there, Exhumer podcast. So, I kind of went backwards and started digging, and man, they were on my list, I believe, and holy cow, they just rock. I mean, they sound like, you know what? I figured they sound like a mix of all four of the big four, kind of thrown in a blender to some degree. There's some songs that sound Slayer, Anthraxy, guitar riffs that sound kind of like Megadeth, and some music that sounds like old school when Metallica was good.
Yeah.
Metallica, you know, so
we've got a lot of Exodus from those guys.
and yeah, there's Exodus in there too. I find a lot of Slayer, especially on their first album. So, but yeah, I got those coming.
For sure.
Yeah, exciting. I love it. When I pick up, I just started spinning it digitally. I going through my list that I made. I knew of one album, but I didn't know the other two. And I'm hoping they come out. I think their latest album was 2020 or 2019. So I'm hoping maybe they've got a new one in the works, because that would be wicked. I mean, such a good thrash band. I mean, old school, just straight up perfect thrash. I love it. So can't wait to get that.
Do we even know if they're still together?
It says, well, according to online and like the metal websites, it says that they are.
Okay.
But I don't think they've toured in a while, and it's kind of hard, I guess, to some degree. But there's no sign of any word on an album or anything. But it's been a while. So,
like Encyclopedia Metallum, they're usually up to date with that.
Yeah, they've got them down as active. So okay. So I'm hoping. But like when I go, I wanted to share some of the videos from YouTube, but they're all either old or not very well, like they're not very well produced or done. So there's not very much there. Like I think it was, but it was just kind of sucky because they've got, I mean, that whole first album is phenomenal. So yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Hopefully they show up at Wacken or something, you know, like that would be cool. Like one of those.
I don't even think I ever saw them listed for any of the big festivals. But
no, it would be nice for them to get into Europe and do like Wacken and maybe a small tour around. That would be cool.
Yeah,
like Hyrax did. Yeah.
Hmm, cool.
So that's what I got, Billy.
Okay. All right. So in terms of news, I guess I have another similar to Ken, a band, a new album update. Not exactly thrash, but death metal legends, Atheist. This is a new album I've been waiting for years. Like I saw them a year ago on tour. It sounded like the album, according to Kelly, when he was on stage, it sounded done. I saw them 2 years ago, and it sounded like it was coming out any time. But he just gave an interview and he said, yeah, we got 6 songs done.
Cool.
So,
nice.
I mean, I guess it's good they got 6 songs done, but they've been talking about this new album for years. So, I don't know 6 of how many. So, no date, no nothing. But the last album was like 2010 or 11 or something. It's
it's been quite a while.
That would have been like Jupiter, I guess. Yeah,
Jupiter.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen them live a few times. They are amazing. Like speaking of like a legend surrounding himself by young guys, right? That band is on fire. Like they're all young, like musicians, but you know they can play that technical style. But like on stage, like they are everywhere, right? Like they're so cool to see. So I don't know. So good news, I guess, for any Atheist fans.
Oh yeah, that's great
there. But no date, no album title. So I don't know. We'll see. And then just quickly, what's spinning? I've been kind of going back to my top 10 album list of last year, so bringing out 2 at a time. So I've been spinning.
Nice.
The new, the last Laceration album. So I Erode, so just great death thrash. And then the other, which I love, right? Like so Crypt Sermon.
Nice.
In Rose, right? This is like, I mean, it's doom metal, but it's like doom metal with lots of traditional metal mixed in. So it's not like, you know, slow and long. Like it has a lot of different pacing changes. So
I gotta check that out.
Yeah, it's really good. Like a very popular band too. They're really growing in popularity. But yeah, I've been playing those 2 the whole last week. So
nice.
That's cool. So that's it on my end in terms of news and what's spinning.
Okay, cool.
So let's move into Coroner. I mean, Coroner, I guess, are maybe not as well known. So I did take a few minutes to put together a bit of a bio. So, well, I think I mentioned it. So, Swiss thrash band, actually officially formed, although not with most of the members that were where the band was best known for, but initially formed in '83. They're a bit known as many of the band members were roadies and crew for Celtic Frost. I think we talked about that
Yeah.
in
Yeah, Marky and
Celtic
Tommy.
Frost. Sorry?
Yeah. Marky and Tommy with the
Yeah,
roadie.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of cool. I
That
mean, they
is.
play European like technical thrash, but the band's always incorporated, progressive elements and jazzy elements, and even the early stuff had a lot of like classical and neoclassical.
I thought it,
Uh,
going back through it, all their albums, I thought it's massively technical too.
yeah, I know for
I
sure. That's why I
really,
love them.
man, like I haven't, I got to be honest, I haven't probably broke into it in a while. And getting ready for it, what a real treat. I think I ordered 2 of their albums this
Oh, you
week.
did?
Oh, cool.
Jim's like quadrupled his album purchases since he's
Oh yeah,
Thrashcast.
yeah.
But
Every
that's
time
okay.
we pull out, unless it's a classic, like a well-known, like super well-known, like
Yeah, you
Metallica,
have it
okay,
all.
whatever.
Yeah.
But everything else, I'm like, oh man, I gotta go. I go looking for the ones I don't have because I usually have 1 or 2, but not the full catalog. And then I'm a completist, so it makes me feel incomplete if I don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. So, like, I've often read them referred to the thrash metal version of Rush. So I think there's a
Yeah.
lot to that, right? Very technical.
Sure.
All
Yes.
three main guys were incredibly talented. They're a trio, just like Rush was. Although they did add a keyboard player if you see them live in recent years, so that's a bit odd, but that's okay. 5 albums. We'll talk about some of them from '87 to '93. I've mentioned before a new album in the works.
Yeah.
So hopefully that comes soon. I mean, sadly, the band never had, I mean, even from a metal perspective, never really had commercial success. Definitely stayed underground. Then the classic lineup is Ron Royce on vocals and bass, Tommy T. Barron on guitars, and then Marquis Marquis on drums. Now he left in 14, and right away was replaced with Diego Rapacietti, who's quite good, and he's definitely younger than the rest of the band, so he stands out when you see them live. But that's all right. They always went by like stage names, right? Like so.
Yeah.
Ron Royce is really Ron Broder, and Tommy
Yeah.
T. Barron is like Tommy Vettorelli. Like I don't know why they did that, but they always use their stage name, so that's kind of funny.
I also think of them a little bit kind of like the Rush thing's a great comparison, but also kind of like a bit of Voivod, like not progressive like Voivod, but sort of. I find they're in a thrash kind of column all themselves. Like they're just kind of different, and it's awesome, and it's different, and it's technical, and I kind of wish they'd have a lot like a bigger catalog for sure. I mean, wow, it's just really, really cutting edge stuff on a lot of these albums.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And there's some cool, like, I don't know, do you guys have this? Let me grab it.
Is that
No.
the B sides?
No, well, this is their it's a bit of a compilation, a bit of everything. So
Oh,
this
no.
came out after Grin.
Okay.
And essentially it has like DVDs, so it has their documentary and stuff in it.
Oh, okay. No, I don't
It has
have
a
it.
live show and it has some remixes of some songs. So it's pretty cool. But to see the band and the DVDs that are included in this is quite good. So it's kind
Okay.
of interesting. I don't know how easy this is to find.
I'm sure it's not.
But yeah, like I bought it from the album and from the band, and it kind of shipped with them signing it. So
Nice.
Nice. That's a good one.
Okay, so then let's jump to the questions. So I think kind of Jim, you hit on this, so maybe we'll start with you. But Coroner definitely, in my mind, a unique band. I don't think they sound like anybody else, in my opinion. So what attracts you to the Coroner sound? What's unique about the band that you think
Oh
stands
man,
out for you?
I think it's a whole package. I love the vocals. Like it's weird. They stayed underground, and I think the reasoning probably because they're from Switzerland, and not saying that bands from Switzerland can't attain commercial success, because we know the biggest metal one did, and they were, Celtic Frost was a flying, they worked, they inspired so many other bands. I just think it's like proggy to me, proggy thrash with maybe a little air of death metal to it, which I really like. And I find the guitars in this are phenomenal. Like, you have every song sounds different. The vocals are great. And I find they depend, especially on this album, and even like from this album, the No More Colored all the way to Grin, I find that there's little nuanced changes for each album, but it's not like they changed their direction of what they were doing totally. Like, there's there's none of the 90s, like the 90s creator in here that we like aren't keen on those four albums. I think we well, Ken liked some of them, but we were like, some of those. I don't have that here. I find they very stay true to what they were doing. And I really, really like it. I mean, I just think that's the total package. I think you can't get a better technical thrash than this. And I really wish more people would get into it. I don't know why. Like, I'm thinking a lot about why they didn't get maybe a lot of commercial success. Possibly they have such a small catalog. That could be it. I mean, I don't know if they busted into the North American market, as a lot of their albums came out, and then like I think it was 93 was Grin, I think. So like you've got 87 to 93, right, in that whole sort of thrash tornado, so to speak, where the best thrash was coming out. I just think they have that prog technical sound to it, which really attracts me to them, and a little bit of a death metal vibe. And I think with the proggy death metal we hear now with bands like Blood Incantation and that, I think you're going to see some thrash bands revert to kind of this a little bit, to kind of not necessarily jump onto a fad, but maybe to bring this back. And maybe you've got the proggy death metal going on. You've got, who was it? Opeth, kind of proggy death metal, I guess you could call it, had a humongous successful album at the end of 24. And of course, Blood Incantation. And you've got these bands now kind of, Bed Sore's another one. You've got these bands kind of doing that. I could see some thrash bands, maybe newer thrash bands coming out, or maybe even some thrash bands that have one or two albums under their belt, maybe taking on a little bit of a direction change. That's the way I think, and I think it would be great.
Cool. Ken?
Yeah, like similar to the Jim, I like the proggy elements, but my connection to them is more like Celtic Frost, because I know the band, they're almost like brother and sister to some degree. They're very interchangeable in a lot of ways, because obviously Ron sounds a little bit like Tom Warrior with the vocal style at times. Musically, they're a little bit different. I mean, Frost is progressive in a different way than what these guys are, which is what I like about the two bands, because they're both like from the same kind of brotherhood, but yet all the bands equally have a different style and tone, and that's what makes them work for me. They don't have a bad album either. I mean, all the 5 albums are pretty good. Although Grin is not my favorite, but
I would agree with that.
What's that?
I thought for sure you would like Grin, though.
I like it. It's kind of industrial.
Okay, let's not jump ahead.
We'll get to it. I will get to it. I don't hate it. I'm just saying it's not my favorite.
I don't hate it either. Yeah.
It's just, I just, when you get into a band, there's always certain albums you'll always gravitate to. You'll always listen to first.
Yeah, I agree.
That's how it is with me. So it's not the one I would grab first. But anyways, but yeah, they're a good band. I mean, it's really hard to say why they didn't break through. Like, I don't know if it's because they didn't get the support that Frost got. I don't know. It's possible, but their albums are good. There's not a bad album really, and the style is great. Like, they're tight.
Mhm.
I agree with the prog, like kind of the Rush comparisons is good.
Oh yeah.
That's a really, really good point. But yeah, I mean, I've always liked them, and like I said, for me, my connection is with Frost, and that's one of the reasons. Because I do know that they're friends. I mean, obviously, Tom is good friends with Tommy and Marky, and so they're all good friends. And then Tommy and Marky were both on the Tragic Serenades Frost tour as roadies. So I mean, it's kind of neat that they're all kind of interchangeable in that way.
And both bands, like Celtic Frost and these guys, kind of gravitated more towards the avant-garde kind of
Yeah,
thing in
yeah,
metal.
exactly.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and I kind of like that. I mean, we'll talk about Grin, but I like how it kind of progressed slightly like that. I think it's cool, and I like it. We talked about it when we did our Celtic Frost podcast, and Ken, I thought of you with this band too because there's so many kind of industrial elements, especially on the
Yeah.
fourth and fifth album.
Yeah. They put the samples.
Yeah.
I don't mind the samples, but I mean, there's they're used sparingly, so it's not
Right.
like it's overbearing and the whole thing is kind of shitty. So it's good for that, but
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys probably hit on it, right? Like for me, it's the technical aspect of it. And what
Yeah.
I liked about it is like, so let's look at the American. So let's grab Watchtower, which is like one of my favorite like technical. They never broke out either.
No, true.
You can argue they had no more. Like, I think just being in the realm of real technical stuff is going to limit your audience, I guess.
Yeah.
But for me,
Yeah.
it's like one of my favorite bands. But I think they're incredibly unique. Some one of you guys said it. I mean, they're not drastically different, but every album shows real progression.
Yeah.
And little tweaks and little changes. So nothing, you don't get bored of it, right?
No.
It's not the same 6 albums, right? So they know enough to switch directions to keep it fresh. I agree with you guys. There's a bit of Tom G. Warrior. Like I've read a few times they referred to Ron as Tom Warrior Light.
Yeah.
And so there's maybe a bit, but I find like again nobody has vocals like Ron, right? He has that. There's a bit like Tom G. Warrior, but much lighter to that point. But he's a bit laid back in his vocal delivery, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
typical
true.
aggressive like thrash vocal. He's more calm, and even though it might be gruffy, and sometimes, especially on Rust in Peace, it could sound a bit more like death metal. But again, just the band, the musicianship is excellent, and nobody sounds like Coroner.
No.
Um,
And
so
you make a good point, Billy. I like going to the American Big Four. This is such a departure from that, but it's such a breath of fresh air because you get a lot of times we're talking about bands, could be American, could be whatever, and they sound like this or they sound like that, or they have a really thick sound like one of the Big Four for obvious reasons. I mean, these four bands were absolute, they were trailblazers, but these guys, as well as Celtic Frost, I mean, Celtic Frost did the exact same thing. They kind of went off into the left a little bit or whatever, and I like that about this. It makes it way more special.
yeah, and I guess, I mean, not to keep harping on this, but I mean, Ken may have hit on this, but the fact that another thing that makes them unique relative to like whether you pick a German like technical, let's say Mekong Delta,
Yeah.
or let's say like Watchtower, right? I think the fact that they spend time with Celtic Frost, these guys could also shift gears, and the music gets very heavy. And like very rough at times, like in Ron's like vocal to some degree, which is the opposite of most, where they're very clean vocals.
Yes.
It's technical through, but you don't get that like pounding like drum sound that you can still get on Coroner albums. So
That's why you get some Sodom. I also hear
yeah,
elements of Sodom in their sound because Sodom is the same. They're
yeah,
kind of raw at times too.
yeah.
So
But
I
no
get
technicality like Coroner.
no. But I mean,
Yeah,
just the raw kind of
yeah,
like go for the gut punch. I hear it in this a lot.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Also, the use of their bass. They use bass in their songs, and I really like. They open it up, and I find it just sounds so cool. It gives me a more of a darker death metal-y kind of vibe to it, to a thrash. I really like it. I mean, definitely wouldn't call it death thrash or thrash death, but
No.
it has that element that really makes it, again, I think it makes it special.
Yeah.
Well, proto. I think the vocals
Yeah.
are proto death metal kind of.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say something and now I forgot. Oh no, the thing about the bass, though, yeah, just like Rush, though, right? They don't have two guitarists.
No, that's
You
right.
need the bass to be very active to fill in the sound, right? Like, could you imagine Rush if Geddy was just hitting a couple notes, right? Like, you needed to go with the one guitar player.
Yeah.
It would sound so thin.
Yeah. Okay, so so I wanted to treat these questions a bit different than our normal ones because I wanted to be a bit more of an introduction to Coroner for new fans, right? Because I think hopefully we'll get some new people hooked on it. So a little bit different. I wanted each of us to do our top 3 Coroner albums, and so again, it'll give some people some ideas to go listen to. So Ken, how would you rank your top 3 Coroner albums?
Oh, it's really hard because hard because I like all the albums.
Yeah.
But so I wasn't sure at first, but then I thought, well, I think I'm going to rank it in terms of what I listen to the most. And the 2 albums that I gravitate to the most is No More Color and Mental Vortex. Those are 2 I listen to quite a bit. I mean, I like our Rest in Peace is good. It's just a good album. The one we're talking about tonight is real equally as good. But I always seem to go to No More Color and Mental Vortex more so. And sometimes I could flip flop. I could put like Mental Vortex first or No More Color second. But I like them both. The song Die by My Hand on No More Color.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
I love that song. That's such a great song. And it opens the album and it's so great. So I tend to go those 2 first. And then I would probably take Punishment over our RIP, and then Grin is going to be last. So if I did all 5, that's how I would rank them for me.
Cool. So, yeah, I'll just jump in because mine's almost similar to yours, and then we'll go to Jim. But so for me, is actually Mental Vortex, hands down. I think is number 1. But then I'd probably go Punishment, what we're talking about today, for number 2. No More Color for 3. Then Rest in Peace, and then I go Grin. So very similar to you, Ken. Jim, where do you sit?
I go with Punishment first. I would probably go with Mental Vortex second. I would go with Grin third. I like it. I like those long songs. There's a lot more long songs on it. What song is the one there? Serpent Moves is really cool.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Like I like that. And then R.I.P. Rest in Peace is a great album. I remember, and I actually, this kind of jogged my memory because I remember in the record store in 1987, that they had a pretty big display of that. Like that was, I think that probably they were pushing it pretty hardcore in the North American. I like that album. And No More Color. I got to be honest though, they're all really good albums. But if that's how I would go with it. Yeah, that's a wicked album. And I like their album covers too. They're so cool. I mean, technically only and Grin has got a cool album cover too with that funky. Yeah,
it's okay. Mental Vortex is probably the better one because they use the Anthony Perkins Cycle.
Yes.
Which I love. I love that. It's like, so great. But
yeah.
And then Grin is a bit cheesy. The album.
I like Grin. I think that's
it's very 90s. That's such a 90s image to me when I see that.
Well, that's a good intro then, Ken. So we've kind of hit on this a few times. So let's tackle it. So the last official album is Grin, 1993, the band's last studio album. It's in my opinion, it's the first time where the band's doing some different stuff, right? There's some alt metal, definitely some groove metal, some industrial, but it is 93, right? So you can't. So was half the bands we love doing the same thing. So
true.
But I know so you guys don't got to spend a lot of time on this if you don't want to, but thoughts on the album. So Jim, we'll start with you since you seem to like it the most.
Oh yeah, I like it. It reminds me kind of how Celtic Frost was going with theirs. I'm not talking Cold Lake, but maybe Into the Pandemonium a bit, but not quite as heavy. More like kind of avant-garde, I find it. And I like that because it kind of brings out a little bit of, I mean, there's less there's less traditional thrash, way less traditional thrash on this album. And I find there's hints of industrial, but I like the avant-garde feel to it. It brings out kind of the weirdness, and that's what I think was part of the reason why Celtic Frost was so popular. Because I mean, as much as I'm not keen on Cold Lake, I gotta give them credit for going through sort of this whole kind of circular thing they went through when they started off where they started to where they kind of ended, compared to, a lot of bands don't do that, but these guys, I love that avant-garde kind of groove to it. The 8-minute songs, the 7.5-minute songs. I mean, I think it's really neat. They could have gone with a full-on Pantera sound, but they didn't. So I kind of like that. I got to give them props for that too. And probably that's what maybe didn't give them the notoriety, especially on that last album in '93, because that sort of metal was it was either going really full on something like Pantera or something like Ministry to some degree, where it was going really heavy industrial. And I think they were kind of hinting, and maybe it just didn't catch on. But I think it's a great album. I love it.
Cool. Okay.
I think it's all right. I mean, I don't hate it. There are things I don't like. I don't like the processed vocals. There's a lot of that on it.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't like, and it's a shame because I think we've all hit on it. He's a really good vocalist, but I don't know, relying on the process shit, I don't like. Yeah. And I hear you start to hear some elements of Sepultura in their sound. There's like heavy synths at times, which is kind of okay. I mean, I don't dislike it. It's a lot like the last Demolition Hammer album where they went this direction, heavy, but they just, I don't know, it just got away from that core signature sound that they had on the first 4. But I think it's okay. But I don't, I might play it once in a while, but I don't play it very often.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm exactly like you, Ken. Like, it's okay. Like, Jim mentioned, like, what is it, Serpent Moves or something? Like,
that
was a decent song. Like, I don't even mind Grin, although it definitely has an industrial, like, that has a pretty heavy, like, catchy groove to it. But then everything, like you said, Ken, all gets summed up in the last song, Host. That is the most boring, dull, synth heavy like song I ever heard. Like I can't stand that song.
Me too.
So there's a few tracks that just they're just way out there for me. But I think that's right. Like, because Jim said avant-garde. Like I said like some alt metal, groove metal, industrial. But there's some like atmospheric and avant-garde in there as well. I think that's fair comment.
Yeah, that's totally fair comment.
Right.
I wonder, it makes me wonder, like, say they put out an album in '95, like another full-on release.
It would have been Cold Lake.
Yeah, like
it could have been
like in '98 or something. Would they hit? Had they been very obviously active in those years? I'm wondering if 2000 hit like a lot of our bands, thrash bands, who jump right back into more of a technical thrash. It would have been kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll never know.
Well, not at all.
We got something to look forward to, a new album. So
there you go.
So we'll see how that is. But it is funny to see the band live these days, right? Because I've saw them like 3 times in the last couple of years, and they have like a permanent like keyboard player. But they play some like quite a bit off to the side, right? So the thing, like obviously the drummer, and then you got the guitar and the bass player up front, and then way to the side is the keyboard player who's doing the stuff from some of the last album for sure. But oddly enough, he's not listed in the credits.
No.
On the band, so I guess they just bring that guy for touring to reproduce this stuff
live on the live set. Yeah.
Whereas Rush, they would just set up trigger pedals and do everything themselves.
Yeah.
Or Getty would play bass, sing, and do keyboards. Okay, cool. And then we'll skip the question 4 because we tackled it, our least favorite album. So we already said that in our ranking. But on the topic of Swiss band, so we mentioned, probably the most famous one. So Us, but there's a fair amount. So I wanted to give
Yeah.
some love to some Swiss metal bands. So ask the guys to kind of come up with. I don't know why I have a check mark that a thing that just popped up, but what the hell? Uh, so they mention a few bands they enjoy. So if people are looking at Coroner, like I
Yeah.
have three that are very similar to Coroner. So if you like
Yep.
Coroner, you'll like these three. But Ken, let's start with you. What would be two or three bands you'd highlight for people from
Well, two what I would well, Messiah would be one.
Yeah,
I
that's a
love
good one. Yeah.
Messiah. They're a great kind of
Yeah.
death metal kind of proggy, and they also have a lot of elements that you get in Frost and in Coroner.
Yeah.
And I like Poltergeist. Poltergeist is another band I like a lot too. So those three bands I think are all really solid. Then Crocus is sort of
Yeah,
it's
they're
metal,
on my list.
but Crocus, but they're also very well known. I mean,
Yeah.
next to Frost, I think they're equally as well known. A lot of
Funny, I
people,
always assumed they were from Germany, Crocus.
No.
no,
I know
they're
I'm probably wrong. I never looked it up. I just
no,
assumed.
they're Swiss band.
They're
I
Swiss
know.
band.
I would think I'm like you though, Billy. I would think Germany as well. But when I looked it up, I was like, oh, Crocus. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I never looked it up. I know.
Yeah, they're and then there's a couple modern bands like Stone, like kind of like stoner doom bands. Like I like Side now. Breeds was more kind of industrial. I like them. They didn't last very long. I think they broke up now, but I thought they were pretty decent. And there's
Cool.
another band called Wolf Council. They're like a stoner doom band, kind of modern sound. They're pretty good. And then there's Lord of the Grave, which is another horror kind of stoner doom band. They broke up as well. So there's a
Seem to have
few.
lots of stoner doom metal bands.
They do, yeah. I was looking it up and I was like, oh, I didn't realize there was that many bands from Swiss that were in that. But I think the Swiss, though, it just seems to me a lot of these bands all have like what Jim was saying, avant-garde kind of leanings or
Yeah.
parts of it. So that's what I would pick.
Yeah. All right. Cool. That's a lot of good. I don't know a couple of those. I know a couple of those. One of those are on my list. Okay, Jim. Anything you'd add?
Yeah, like I talked about Crocus too. I mean, Mark Storchi just had a solo album which I covered for Allfather.
That's right.
Very AC/DC sounding, but Crocus is really cool because they went from like the early stuff was fairly hard and heavy to more of an AC/DC kind of hard rock sound. So I found them very much like that. And I know there's a funny story with them where they got I think they got booted off the Def Leppard tour for I think Pyromania because they were kind of upstaging them a little bit. If I get the story right, I could be wrong, but I think I remember that. Anyways, that's kind of cool. I picked Hellhammer.
Yeah.
You know,
Before Frost.
great. And I got I had Messiah as well as Ken, but I also put in something new, Zeal and Andor. That's there's one there, and also I believe Burning Witches. I believe the majority of them are all Swiss. I believe it's considered Swiss, a Swiss band. So
they're listed. If you look them up, they're listed.
Yeah. So
Cool.
a couple different ones there, but I agree. I mean, Crocus is kind of like the ABBA of Swiss kind of. I mean, they kind of cover the whole, hard rock, maybe hair metal to regular heavy metal, more traditional sound. But really, I mean, some of those early albums like Headhunter and that sold really well, and they got North American success fairly early.
Yeah.
So, but
cool. So yeah, I just jotted down three. Ken, you hit this one, Poltergeist. I think that's an easy one for people to enjoy if you like thrash and German thrash, Swiss thrash, European thrash. It's easy to go with. 5 albums to choose from, everything from '89 to last one was 2020, and that last album was great.
Yeah,
I love that one.
I liked it quite a bit.
Me too.
Then number 2 is a band I recently discovered from somebody on Instagram who I chat with. So the band's called Drifter. And they
I
have
don't know.
this awesome album from 1988 called Reality Turns to Dust. I
Okay.
mean, they could give like Coroner a run for the technicality, but they're not as heavy, right? Because so I'd say they're thrash, there's some speed metal and some power metal. Maybe closer to Poltergeist might be a good way to
Okay.
put it. Two albums, good technically, but yeah, that Reality Turns to Dust. I can't stop playing it since I
Oh, cool.
discovered that one. And the last one is a modern one. So they came out in like maybe 2010, 11, or 12. They're called Algebra.
I've heard of
Um,
them. Yeah, I've
from
heard of them.
Swiss. So like,
Yep.
yeah, great musicianship, songwriting's easy to catch on to. Um, fairly clean vocals, not like your typical high vocals, but not as like gruffy as Coroner vocals. But if somebody wants to try them out, like I would go with the one of my favorites is a couple years ago they did an album called what the hell was that called now? Pulse, I think.
What's that one?
Maybe
Sorry,
it was
post.
Pulse. Um, I could be wrong, but either way, like I mean, Algebra, they got four albums, so
Yeah,
I own all four, and I think they're all great, so they're
I had
worth.
the first two.
And the band's still finding their way. They're still fairly young, right? They're
Mhm.
they're not seasoned like an Exodus or a Metallica or anything like that, or Celtic Frost, but or Coroner for that matter.
Yeah,
So
it's Pulse with a question mark.
yeah, Pulse. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that's a great one. That maybe they're recent or their second.
No, they have one called Cairo Patira that came out in
Oh,
22.
in 20. Okay, I don't have that
Yeah,
one. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check that out then. Cool. Thanks for that.
I'm gonna check them out. That's why I wrote it in my phone.
Yeah, the first
Yeah,
two are good. The first two albums are really good.
yeah. No, they're cool. Okay, so that's a lot of great ideas for people who want to dive into Switzerland metal. So everything from doom to old school to thrash to, I mean, what like power metal, I guess, power metal.
Yeah,
So
you got
yeah,
it.
there's a lot of different kind of bands there. I'm just trying to figure out like what do you call Crocus?
I
Classic
call
hard
them
Power
right
rock.
metal?
now.
What-
Probably for me, it would be a classic or hard rock.
Yeah,
Hard
hard
rock?
rock.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, not power metal, eh? Okay.
No.
No. I maybe heavy, maybe more traditional back in the first few albums. But when they
Yeah.
started hitting like I think Midnight Screaming in the Night, I think was a big one there after Headhunter and that, and they started to become like kind of much more MTV friendly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They always had really good album covers. I always
Yeah.
liked the covers.
Yeah. Didn't they have one of like a car accident or something?
Yes.
Or
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, Rendezvous
cool.
or Metal Rendezvous, maybe.
Metal Rendezvous. Yeah.
I only have two or three albums from those guys, so I'm not an expert by any means. Okay, cool. So let's jump to the actual album. So do our normal track by track walk through. So the first track, I mean, there's not a lot here. I mean, Ken will, I don't know if there's anything you want to say. The first track is intro, a few seconds. Any thoughts on it, Ken?
Well, it's kind of creepy. It's like it has a bit of like a horror soundtrack
Yeah.
beginning. Like you hear the voices rising up like from a pit, I guess, or like they're either like spectral ghosts or demons or something. I think that's kind of neat. It's
Mhm.
Yeah.
very brief. It's like 5 seconds, but it perks up your ears as an intro.
Yeah. I wrote
mean,
down
for me, it doesn't really do much. Like it's,
Really? Yeah, I don't mind it.
I don't know. Like it's okay. Yeah.
I wrote down it's very Blair Witchy. Like if the
Yeah.
Blair Witch had a theme song for 12 seconds, that would be it.
Good
Okay.
point, Jim.
I can
Yeah,
see-
yeah, it's good. No, I think it's cool. It sets up number two, and it's I think it's kind of freaky, like it's only 12 seconds long, but that's they hit the point pretty quick.
Cool. All right. So Jim will stay with you. Track number 2, Absorbed.
Oh yeah, this is a great song. I mean, technically this is the song that kind of starts off the album. You got the 12-second intro there. But I mean, it's got killer drums. Like it sets up for what you're gonna get on this album. It's got great guitar leads. That 30 seconds the vocal cuts in. It's almost, I find the vocals hit you with kind of a little bit of a lo-fi, very death metal-y. They're clean, but a little gruff, but more death metal-y to me. At 120, you get that really cool tempo change, which breaks into a chug, which is awesome. At 140 or 141, it breaks into such a cool guitar solo, and it has so many tempo changes with the guitars. And I think it's really got some groovy melodic parts in it. I think it's a great song to kind of start off the album. And it definitely, it's a great title too, because it kind of gets you absorbed into what you're going to be listening to. So it's pretty cool.
Cool. Ken?
Yeah, Jim's made some good points about it. Like, there's lots of it's really dark and melodic riffing to the song, but what I like about them is their lyrics aren't as fantasy driven as you would get in Celtic Frost. They're a little bit more down to earth, because like the whole point of the song is that they're talking about trauma and how to get past it to like get a better direction in life. I kind of like that. I like that it's a bit more down to earth and not as lofty as, you know, some of these, like what you would have gotten in Frost. But yeah, it's a really good song as well. And the vocals, yeah, they're proto death metal style. But I get a lot of Tom Warrior on this one for sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, hear
Tom
this
Warrior Light.
Yeah, Tom Warrior Light, exactly. Yeah, this is a good song. I like it quite a bit.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the production of the album?
Great.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
I like it.
I find it a bit rough. Like I find the vocals are too far back.
Yes, yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, I still love the album. Don't get me wrong. I'm nitpicking, but like, yeah, like I found the production on every album after this was so much stronger.
Well, the vocals get better on the next couple albums.
Yeah.
Mental Vortex, I think the vocals are great.
I agree.
And even, you know, you're right. These first two, the vocals are, the way they're recorded, they do sound like he's far away.
Yeah.
I get that. I got that same impression as well.
And the bass is not, I mean, you know, the bass is there and you can hear it more and less in some tracks, but I like it to be a bit more defined in the mix. But again, the band, this second album, right? They weren't exactly swimming in cash to produce this thing. So, okay, cool. Yeah, no, I think you guys hit on it. I mean, what Coroner is so good at, right? Like transitioning like between the heavier thrash parts and bringing in some melodic stuff. And this thing has like a really good, like at 3:15, like I like that gang vocal that kind of kicks in when they're singing like inside looking for a key, like that's kind of a cool part. But one thing always I find with many of these songs, there's like an abrupt ending, or they do a sudden fade out, right? It's almost like these songs were all longer, and it's like they end up like cutting them back. But yeah, I mean, this to me, like this track and all the tracks, it's all about like the guitars, right? Like it's just fantastic. I love the riffs. I love the lead work. Like to me, that's, even though they're all great, that's what really draws me in. But okay, cool. Mass Jackal, Ken.
Yeah, this song I like a lot. Now, this song, somebody brought it up. I was reading it somewhere, and so I went back to do that. So it has a lot of Chuck's Death, Living Monstrosity. If you listen to the two songs, they're very similar. And I was like, oh, okay. So I listened to them both back to back. I'm like, yeah, I do hear elements of Living Monstrosity here. So maybe Chuck was inspired, or, you know, he heard it, and I don't know, hard to say, but I just thought that was an interesting point that somebody brought up. But the song is really good. Like, it's got beefy guitars. It's got this really dominant chug that you get. The opening is so incredible. I love the opening to this song. It's blows me away. And, you know, it's great too, because again, they decided to write about or critique the idea of, you know, political deception and corruption. So they keep it, I guess, basic in that regards. And then there's that one sample bit, I think it's at 142, which I couldn't quite understand what it was.
Like a spoken word type deal.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't think it really served the song well. But then the solo quickly follows after that, and then the tempo goes insane. And I love that. And then you get that whole second half, like where it's just you get a whole minute from 228 on where it's a pure guitar bliss. Like those guitars are
And
just
bass too, right? Like
and bass,
early
yeah,
in
yeah,
that
and
one
bass.
minute section, there's some bass leads too.
Yes, you're
Some
right.
bass
Yes,
runs. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's so great. Like it's just
Yeah.
wow. It's like your ears perk up. And what I also like about it is the fact that they're a very economical band. They don't go in for all this like diddly stuff. Like
Uh,
there's no extra frills. It's just we get to the point. The songs are lean, they're simple, and the guitars really when they're there. That's why I like it for me, anyways. And this
yeah.
this is probably one of the better songs on the album,
Yeah.
Thrash Cackle.
I mean, that's a good point too, right? Because with Coroner, like again, you go to some of the American and German technical thrash, the songs could get long, right? They could have
Yeah.
open like Exodus often kept it like between 3 to 4.
Mm.
Sometimes it would get to 5, but like it never seemed like they put the doodling and all that stuff, at the expense of the song. The song comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Jim?
Yeah, like I think it's a great song, that cool chug intro, and then it kind of the wicked guitar leads that break in like at I think it's 27 seconds in, and then it goes into a faster chug, and then at 136 it even gets faster, and that 145 or 141, as Ken said, there's that spoken kind of newsy
Weird.
kind of weird word thing,
Yeah.
but I think it's pretty melodic, and at 228's got that cool riff that leads into like that 2 minute guitar solo. And then at around 425, you have kind of live sounds, like they're playing live or whatever. You got crowd sounds kind of in there as
Oh
well.
that's
So
right.
it's I like it. I think it's a great song. Yeah, and what you guys mentioned about like all the guitar, like it doesn't sound like an angry bee guitar. You know what I mean? Like when you have that just kind of going off for no reason. I think it like Ken said it best when he says they're very economical,
Yeah.
even to the point of even being somewhat frugal in a way, which is good because it suits the song. It kind of downs it a little bit, so you're not just playing these weird. You're just not making weird sounds for the sake of making weird sounds. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty. It comes together, and this is one of my favorites. This and I got my favorites going to be coming up in a few more, but yeah, wicked song.
Yeah. And it's got a great chorus, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes the Coroner choruses are not as straightforward and catchy, but this one's pretty catchy and kind of sticks with you. But yeah, I mean you guys hit everything right down to the minutes. But I think one thing that from like Tommy does like on on the guitars, they'll like often they'll throughout their career they'll do like a classical or jazz kind of influence, and at that 228 section there is like a bit of a jazzy section in that
Yeah.
guitar solo that I think is pretty cool. But and then we haven't really talked about the drum work, but the drums are like quite good on here. Like there's lots of interesting fills. He's not just playing a standard beat, right? Like Rush, like he's one of the band members making the music, right? So yeah, kudos to him. I think he does a really good job.
My kitty's coming in to say hello.
Wicked.
Oh, okay, cool.
She's like, I want to hear what's going on, you guys.
Guest star.
Yeah.
So when we put up our when we post the thing and it has our 3 faces, we'll need a 4th
Yeah.
with the cat's face for this episode.
What's her name?
Coco.
Coco. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a good
Cool.
metal name.
Yeah.
Cool.
This
Okay.
when I'm working during the week, like if I'm home working, she jumps up on my lap and I'm working away and I'm like, oh, I got to do this. And you got the cat on my lap. It's kind of a pain.
Better your lap than the keyboard. Lots of
Yeah.
cats.
That's true. Very true.
I mean, this is getting totally off track, but I remember working from home and I think I went to the bathroom, left my laptop like on the couch. And then I come back, I pick it up. The cat was near it, and then I'm missing letters. Like, so she had stepped all over the keyboard and it popped out a couple letters that I had to struggle to find. But anyway, we're off topic. So where are we? Track number 4. Jim, going to you, arc light and instrumental.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. An instrumental, especially after, I guess, with such a small intro. But I think it's got kind of a classical. If I could make this as a classical thrash kind of thing, it kind of has some Flight of the Bumblebee kind of. They come up with their own thing here. I think it's pretty cool. At 145, you got breaks. I mean, the whole thing's the whole thing's kind of a solo, but 145 you got that really cool solo that kind of takes off. I think it's great, the trade-off between the guitar and the drums and that. It's got a cool bass line. I think it's pretty neat for a instrumental. I like it.
Yeah. For me, it's one of my favorite instrumentals in Thrash.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's only like, 3 minutes and 20
That's
seconds,
pretty
but
good though. Yeah.
yeah, no, like, and again, like, I think it's not repetitive in any way. Like, it's really interesting the way they put it together. There is a bit of a journey. Again, you can
Mm-hmm.
hear there's some jazzy influences, definitely some classical, but it's still 100% shreds, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is still like a thrash track. So yeah, it's so much talent in the band.
Yeah.
I like it. Like, I mean, if they added another minute and a half, I would have been equally happy. But Ken, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, it's really good as well. I mean, there's a lot of descending chords at the start, which is really good, and then it kind of goes into this weird kind of almost Ingve J. Malmsteen kind of style to it, which is why I like it. I was like, oh, that's because I always liked 80s Malmsteen, so you kind of get a bit of that here. But yeah, for it could be maybe a bit longer. I mean, a minute or so, but for the length, it's fine. I think it's a really solid instrumental.
Yep.
Cool. We all agree on that one. So Ken, sticking with you, track number 5, Skeleton on Your Shoulder, which is kind of a cool song title.
Yeah, the
Wicked.
song titles actually refers to a metaphor, and that's the idea of addiction. So, like, the song's about having drug addiction, and it's on your shoulder. So, I think that was kind of a nice little play. But I like this song a lot because there's a nice melodic opening. The guitars are really moody in that first 30 seconds. Get maybe just a touch of doom to it, and then you get that really nice chug at the 120, and then this super speed tempo
Yeah.
just whips up, and I love it. I get some like Megadeth vibes here in this one. I like early Megadeth, and then it kind of slows down. Like, 310, so it slows down and it goes in this little bit of a kind of a bluesy solo, I guess, if that's a lack of a better word for it. But yeah, there's a lot of really good chugging intensity with it, and the last minute of the song is really good. I like the song quite a bit.
Yeah. No, it's great. Jim?
Yeah, one of my favorites. This and the next one. You got that. I mean, the vocals don't cut into like 152, so you've got a long start to it, but they set it up. I find it's
Still win, Jim? What is it?
152. I got.
I know. I never even noticed that.
Yeah. Like
okay,
it's quite a ways in, but what I like about it is it's got that ominous intro where I find it's got a heavy, darker sound to it. I mean, at 120, I think it was 125 or 135. I can't read my writing, but that song just absolutely takes off, as Ken was saying, just takes right off. But it's got that wicked riff and chug that kind of takes it along. I think it's a great tune. I like it. It's different than the other ones so far on this album. So, and it sets up the next song. I think it's a great track. That fast riffing is really cool too. I love that. I mean, it's just it is technical, and I think that's what I really like about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, you guys kind of hit on it again, right? Like I love that slow classical acoustic kind of opening. That's really cool. Again, like the guitar work is just stellar, right?
Oh yeah.
Be the chugs or the riffs or the lead work, and I think Ken hit this, but that musical section that kicks in at like 3:15 and it goes right to like 4:10, like that's fantastic. There's some cool variety in there, but then they come back hard with into thrash mode again after that. So yeah, like you get a bit of everything. It's a good song. Another fairly catchy chorus on this one as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like it. Okay, so we go back to Jim. I think you may have already given away your favorite here, but Sudden Fall.
Yeah, I love this song. I mean, this has got an old school. If Slayer and Venom were to have an album that sounded like old school Venom, old school Slayer, that's what it reminds me of. I mean, it's got that great drum and guitar intro, that trade off. This is definitely a drum track. It's got those cool gang shouts at 155. The song kind of slows to a cool kind of interlude, but then leads into a really awesome guitar solo.
Yep.
And the chorus on this one is great too. The sudden fall, it's wicked. I think it's one of my favorite. This is probably my favorite, with 5 being my second, and then the other one we spoke about being my third favorite. But yeah, it's my favorite song on the track.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if there was a single for this album. Do you guys know? Like that would have probably
Yeah,
been a good one
No,
if
I
there
don't think there
was.
was, Billy.
There
I
wasn't?
didn't see
No.
any.
Oh, okay. All right.
This
So
would have
stay.
been good.
Yeah, this would have been a good one, I think.
Yeah.
So staying on Sudden Fall, Kent, over to you.
Yeah, I like it. It's. I agree with Jim. It's a really strong track. I like how they sort of use the chorus,
Hmm.
and then they have the tempo change, and then the chorus it shifts into the chorus. Like, I like how they do it a couple of times in the song, and I think that's kind of a interesting choice because it's like sudden fall, sudden fall. It
Yeah.
really works. It really gives it makes it catchy.
Yeah.
But it's good. But it's good as well. I mean, like it's strong. It does have some old school thrash vibes to it. Those flourishing guitars are amazing, and I
Hmm.
love the tempo changes here. There's a lot of this. Like I said, I like how they sort of timed it with the chorus. It seems to
Yeah.
work really well. It just makes it a catchier song than the previous 5, I think, on this one here specifically. I could kind of see this one if they played it live. Maybe people might get into it. Like
Yeah, I think
because
so.
you're getting the whole sudden fall thing in the chorus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good song. I like this one as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think this would have been, if you're going to release something, this would have been a good choice to release.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
completely agree with you, Ken. I have that like in bold, the sort of way they did the chorus and musically
Yeah.
before, like that totally stands out to me. You guys already mentioned the tempo changes, just perfect, keep it interesting, but also drum wise again. I like this, right? The drums get really heavy here. There's some great like pounding drums, and the double bass kind of kicks in with the crushing guitar chugs. Like it's just great, right? And this is probably, I don't know, maybe the most accessible song on the album.
It's a good
It
point.
kind of gets it to being catchy, but that's why I think it'd be a good single release. Cool. Track number 7, Shadow of a Lost Dream. Ken.
Yeah, this is not a bad song. The title is like really lofty, Shadow of a Lost Dream. But it's kind of interesting because the whole song's about an astronaut, like it's something to do with space. And you're kind of you're exploring feelings of being lost and confused. It's interesting. I don't mind it. It might be a personal song because Marky writes all the lyrics for the band.
Hmm.
It might be something personal to him because it's maybe about a lost love, but it has a lot of catchy chugs, and I like the tempo shifts here. They're a lot
Yeah.
faster in that first minute. Wow, it's really good. And then you have that galloping tempo that picks up, and then you get into it goes right into the next solo, which I like. But
Hmm.
this is a lot of really good riffs, good purposeful like soaring riffs. Yeah, it's really catchy to the ear. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's another solid song.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely on the catchy part. Like I think Diego does a great job on the drumming on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some just as you said, some great riffs, but up front there actually is some pretty good upfront bass, and I actually find it sticks out in the mix a little bit. There's a couple of songs where the bass seems to stick out more than others, and this is
Mm.
one of those. But yeah, it's cool. It's so Jim, over to you.
Yeah, you guys pretty much said it all. I like it. It's almost the 1 minute mark, so 50 seconds when sort of his vocals come in, and they're kind of evil sounding. I kind of like that, but I called it like an evil vocal chug in the song. But you guys said it all. I love the guitars. The bass line in it is wicked, and you can hear it in the song, like Billy said. And another drum track for sure. I think it's a pretty good song. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of variety in the tracks,
Yeah.
right? You're not just getting like everything sounds the same. So that's pretty cool. So that brings us to track number 8. I think we'll go back to you, Jim, The New Breed.
Yeah. Yeah, this has kind of got a cool groovy intro, like it's very melodic, this song. I find it. I find it's got that at 112, it's got kind of that news. It sounds like a news program or a spoken news words that's in there. At 228, it's got that a really cool technical guitar solo. The guitars, I can't say enough about it in this song. And then like at the end of the 228, you got this guitar solo that goes on, and then it cuts back to sort of, I think it would be like a news clipping or something that I'm hearing that cuts in. But it's a pretty cool song, and I like the effect. It's not just this, like, I like it better than the spoken word part in the other song. I think it's kind of cool. And again, here we are on song 8, and we're not replicating really anything. The guitar lead, the guitar is fantastic in this song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down too. Tommy, the guitars are incredible. The riffs are really good here.
Oh yeah,
that's the first thing I noticed. But again, with this kind of a song, I think the sample part is like meant to be like tying back to what they're saying in the lyrics about it's about a new breed of man who grows up in a war-torn environment and doesn't know anything beyond that. So it's kind of interesting. I like that idea. A bit on the heavy side, but works for me. The chorus is really good, and I also, the first 35 seconds are pretty strong. I like how it starts out, but it's a good song. I think this is where maybe it might have been the last song or here where the vocals start to sound a little far away at times, or they seem to get a little lost.
Yeah,
and it might just be a production thing for the time, but I find it a little bothersome because I want to hear the vocals too. And I find that the last 2 or 3 songs, the vocals are there, but they're not. They just, I don't know. There's something about them. Maybe it's just the way it was produced. I don't know.
Yeah, and we some of us have said it before too, right? Like the production is not even consistent on every song, right?
Sure.
Good. That's
Some
a good
tracks,
point.
the bass is better than others. To your point, Ken, sometimes the voice is further away.
Yeah.
Another track, like I don't know. It's like they did it like over a period of time, and they kept coming back, and there were little differences. I don't know, but actually, for me, this is one of my favorite songs on the record, and it's a master class in riffing by Tommy. For me, this whole song is the Tommy show.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't notice the vocals because I'm just sitting there smiling, listening to the guitar work on the album. But like, don't you guys find like, so this album is what, like 88, I think? 88? Yeah. Right. 88. So like I actually hear like some groove and like industrial elements in the song, right? Like they're doing it before it was like ever popular, and
that's a good point.
This is probably most like something that could have ended up on Grin. I mean, obviously there's the guitar work's way more exciting on this track than maybe what was on Grin, but it has a lot of those elements. And as I re-listened to the album, it's like they were doing some stuff here that bands were doing in the 90s. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that they were at least the thrash bands, anyways. Okay, cool. I got both of you guys on that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. Number 9, we go to Voyage of Eternity. Ken, let's go with you.
Yeah, I like this song a lot. I like the lyrics of it. This is one song that I like a lot because they're talking with this astronaut who's like, he's a cosmonaut who's like facing his final moments in space. Reminds me of that Maiden album.
Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time.
No, the other one, the later one where he's he's in space.
Seven Sun?
No. Oh shit! Why is it drawing a blank?
Where Eddie's a spaceman, right?
Yeah. He's exploding in space. It sort of reminds me of that a little bit. It just came to mind. I guess the image was in my head. But the song itself is okay. I like it. There's a nice speed tempo. You like 39 seconds in, you get a really huge shug, which is nice. I like the chorus. Like, now I know I'm on my way. That's why I said it reminds me of that Maiden song, because it's just
the Final Frontier.
Final Frontier. That's exactly what the song reminds me of. So it's like, I wonder if Maiden actually heard that song and thought that'd be a great song for us. I don't know. I just noticed it. The solo is okay. I don't mind that. But then it has it fades out in a weird way. It just suddenly like fades out and ends. I'm like, oh, that's a bit odd. That's an odd choice. But the song overall is pretty good. I don't mind it.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually like it a lot. It's
Mm.
up in the top half for me. This is another one like the bass work is quite strong and you can kind of hear it. And Tommy's got some great riffs on here. Like the chorus is a little slower, more melodic. I think it contrasts well with the heavy parts. But then there's that musical section from like 2 minutes to like 2:58 that sort of seals the song for me. Like I just love it. And it almost is, it's funny you say that though. Like it's like a cosmic sounding like lead
Yeah,
section.
yeah,
It
yeah.
definitely has that kind of feel to it. But yeah, then it goes back to the heavy chugging riffs, and I said that in like one or two of the other songs where it'll fade out or end
Mm.
abruptly. It feels odd. Like it happens like three times on this album, but again, small little nitpicks. Like I enjoy the song. Jim?
Yeah, this is my favorite last track. So not to give anything away, but like this should have been
I
one of
would
the
agree with that, but anyway.
they should have ended the album here. I mean that that drum cymbal kind of intro sounds really cool. Again, technical guitar work throughout the whole thing. That 40-second chug sets in. I mean, this has got everything to it. At 2:25, you've got that killer guitar solo, and I kind of like on this song how it fades out. So, and I just wish it would have faded out and we didn't get anything else after this. But anyways, we'll leave that for the next song. A great song. This would have been perfect to end the album off with.
I agree.
Okay. So should we tackle that last track?
Yeah,
Sure.
we have to.
So Ken, let's have you start with this one. Purple Haze. Of
Yeah.
course,
Well,
the Jimi
we
Hendrix
have this
cover.
argument all the time.
Yeah.
A band that wants to put a cover, but they
Oh,
like I like Purple Haze as a song,
so do
but
I.
I'm fucking sick of hearing it. I've heard it to death. Like Jimi Hendrix, that's when you ever hear Jimi Hendrix, it's always Purple Haze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all right. Like their version's a lot speedier, a lot faster. So
Yeah.
they don't get the nuances of the actual song to me because I think they cut it out and go for this kind of speedy thrash version. It's all right, but to me this could be left off. This could be like a single or a B side or I don't know, whatever. Like it didn't need to be there. That's all I'm
Yeah.
gonna say.
So I didn't know where you were going to go with that. Yeah, where you started with the one of because this breaks two of our rules, right? Like
Yes.
it's not the greatest cover, and then to
Yeah.
finish with a cover and not finish on a bang is
Yeah,
it's like the other no. But
yeah,
Jim, what do you think? Do you like it?
No, I hate it. I think,
Okay.
man, I love Purple Haze, but
me too.
again, I'm sick of hearing about it.
Yeah.
This Foxy Lady, like, stop making covers of. Like the only other thing they could have done, which would have been even worse, was Anarchy in the UK. Like, give me a
Oh,
break
yeah,
here. I would have rathered to show off the guitar prowess. Like they could have picked off something off of even like pick off a UFO song, or if you want to do a cover, do something from maybe I don't know. It drives me nuts. It's like maybe a Deep Purple deeper track or something. That's
How about
just
a
my
Rush cover, Jimmy?
yeah. Actually, great
That would
call.
have been cool.
I mean, we're
That'd be
comparing
cool,
them to
yeah.
a Rush kind of thrash band version of Rush. Why the hell wouldn't they have done like Working Man or something?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
just something like. Oh, I'm so. Anyways, and to have it as the last song, I think it just again, I've had some covers on these albums where we're like I think there was one I can't remember, Tigers of Pantang, which was a bit of a deeper track. That was kind of cool. An AC/DC deeper track was okay, but this is just more Jimi Hendrix. It's like, and it's a thrash version. Yeah, okay. I mean, I bet you when I was a young Padawan learner, I was listening to this going, oh yeah, it's way better than Jimi Hendrix. But I've grown to like the classics way better than the covers. And I mean, I think it's just a last track that should have been put on a remaster or something as a bonus track.
Yeah. I mean, I would have said like Sudden Fall or The New Breed would have been a better way to, or Voyage to Eternity would have been a better way to end. But like, just as we're talking about it, it reminded me. So we're going slightly off topic, but let's jump here for a second. Mental Vortex. So we're back in the same boat. Last song is a cover. They didn't choose your typical cover. They went with the Beatles.
Yeah, I want you.
I Want You, She's So Heavy, and then they had to do like an 7 or 8 minute version of it. Do
Yeah.
you guys like that cover?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay.
it's all right, but
Yeah, I'm the
I
same
again
way. Yeah.
I don't know if it should have ended the album,
Yeah, I
but
agree. It's a bummer. It
it's an
ends
okay
on like
song.
yeah. Like they
But
seem to like to pick like, like very like, like I mean not old school artists, but like influential superstar artists that they like to
yeah.
cover, but they just I don't know, it doesn't work for me.
Well, you gotta wonder if the labels don't push it, like, oh, we want that on there. It'll like increase
Oh.
your marketability, internationally. You gotta wonder about that sometimes. How much say do they have? You know?
Yeah, like Rush. In all fairness, like let's be honest, if they did a Rush cover, probably less people would know. Like unless it was like Tom Sawyer, one of the more popular Rush
Yeah,
songs.
Tom Sawyer. Yeah.
Yeah, probably most Thrash fans. I mean, maybe I'm not giving people enough. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of Thrash fans that are Rush fans like us, but that's probably why Purple Haze kind of a safe thing to add. But and that Beatles one, even though they went out on a limb there, I don't know. I just find it kind of confusing.
Yeah, it's
Like,
long, it's
yeah,
overloaded, like I don't get
7 minutes.
yeah. Well, that's why I'm just looking at No More Color now, just to make sure they didn't do it 3 times in a row, but they didn't.
No, they didn't.
They ended with Last Entertainment, which I'm
Yes.
99% sure is their own song.
yeah,
Uh, cool. All right, so that kind of covers the Coroner album. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess as we talk through each of the songs, like I think it sort of cements that I probably do like Mental Vortex the most, as I kind of thought. But yeah, all great albums, so
yeah.
no issues there. Anything else you guys want to say on Coroner before we go to top 10?
Oh man, I just think anybody out there who's looking for like again, I say this a lot because the albums we've been picking, like the last grouping of all the albums we pick are our favorite albums, and we love them so much. But I think this is another one that's like you want to get into Celtic Frost or this, this is like you were saying, like Celtic Frost, little brother, baby Frost or whatever. This is a perfect sort of gateway album to get into that, and I think it's even got, coming from Switzerland, you've got, there's also such a tie-in with the history of these bands to even black metal to some degree, as we know, like a lot of black metal bands cite Celtic Frost as being, one of the main bands they were into. And I think it's just such a good band. I forgot how great this band was, and Billy, great pick on the album. You could have picked probably, well, I probably wouldn't have picked Grin, even though I like it, any of the other albums, but it's such a good. As soon as I listened to this, I remember, I mean, I have 2 of these albums. I jumped into this, then I went back, listened to RIP, then I jumped ahead and listened to Grin, and then I was like, oh man, it was like 3 days of just Coroner. That's all I played. And I mean, it's some really good stuff here.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump to our top 10 lists. Ken, do you want to kick us off? So again, just a reminder, topic is 10 thrash or metal bands that only released one album that we enjoy. So Ken, over to you.
I went all thrash. I was able to do that.
Oh, you did?
Man, I had trouble.
I
at first when you guys suggested this, I was like, oh, this is easy. And I had trouble because I wanted to pick
no
stuff
death,
that
Ken? You have no death metal?
No, I went all thrash.
Okay. Well, let's see what you
got. I don't know. For me, like I get it. Like, we can do variety, but it's a thrash podcast, so I always like to try, if I can, stay within the parameters of the show. I mean, you don't have to.
I had trouble.
It's just my rule. It's just my personal rule. I like to do that. So, but yeah, I was able to find 10. So I'll start with number 10. And, this band is, well, they changed their name, but I chose a band named Zombie. And I do have this
Wicked
cover. It's a split with Sacrificial Blood. Now, Zombie is actually Warbringer. This is the band they actually started out as. Now, I might be cheating, But
I was just going to
essentially,
say that sounds like a cheat.
it is technically,
I'm
but
cheating on
Zombie
one,
doesn't
though.
exist. The band is doesn't
I hear
exist.
you.
It doesn't exist.
I'm just joking.
But I actually like this split quite a bit,
The
and
artwork's
I
fantastic.
like the logo. I like their sound. They were more kind of a horror gore band, which is weird because Warbringer's nothing like that. But yeah, I liked it. It's just too bad we will never see anything beyond that, unfortunately. Number nine, I've talked about this band. I told you guys before, and I did one of our I think one of our was it an Annihilator? I don't remember. A Razor. We talked about Canadian thrash, Splatterpunk, this Infinite God from 1992. Only one album. They were only a band for a few years, and then they disappeared. The Towner brothers, both Sean and Scott, were the two main guitarists in the band. They're from Oshawa. Pretty good kind of like kind of somewhat crossover, but a lot of technical sound. I liked it. You could search them out. Hard to find, obviously now because it's like one album way back in 1992. But I really like that album. I still like that album. Number eight, I have Torture. I've mentioned Torture before. They're another kind of one album, 1989, called Storm Alerts. A very intense raw thrash metal band. Actually, they're still around. This band is actually apparently active, which I was like, okay, but they only have the one album. But yeah, search that out too if you're looking for something that's a little more of the hard hitting on the aggressive side. Then I have another band here, number seven, Fallen Angels. This is from Sweden. One album came out in 1992. It's very stylish, intense, lots of memorable hooks to it, lots of ripping guitars. Check those guys out too. They're pretty solid. I had the album. I couldn't find it tonight to dig it out somewhere, but yeah, it's a solid album. Number six, I've mentioned these guys before. Exorcists with Nightmare Theater, 1986. Very atmospheric speed thrash. They had a very unique sound. One album, then disappeared.
Were they American?
Yeah, they were American. Yes.
I thought so. Then they're on my list.
Yeah. They're. I wish they had more albums, but
Yeah.
they don't. And then number five, I have Dark Serpents from Israel, which is weird because you don't get too many bands from Israel. They had one album, 2011, it came out. It's called MCK or M.C.K. It's all about the riffs of this band. Really, really good riffs. I think they're interesting. Fortunately, one album in and they're gone, and they broke up not long after. Number four, I have Stygian, Planetary Destruction from 1992. I love this album. I found it years ago. Gary Golitzer, who's the main vocalist, was in a band called Wrath, another thrash band. This was another side project he did. One album, but pretty solid stuff. I really, really like it. Then number three, I have Charged from Finland. The album's called In Vice. It came out in 1989. It's like speed thrash, crossover appeal. Kind of the vocalist reminds me a little bit of Mike Muir and James Hetfield. He's got a cross between the two. Check those guys out. This is a pretty solid album. One album. It's unfortunate because I think I would love to hear more in that style. Number two, I have Cabal. Now, one of my personal favorites. This came out in 2000. They're death thrash. They're in the U.S. Now, they're named after Clive Barker, which is my favorite horror author, his novel, Cabal. Now, what's interesting about this band is that the vocalist is Killjoy, if you know Killjoy from Necrophagia and his own band, Killjoy. This is one of his two side projects that he had. It's very ultra heavy, very much in the vein of Demolition Hammer. Unfortunately, Killjoy passed away in 2018, but this is a really good album. It doesn't get talked about that much, but I really like it. And then number one, I have Wrecking Machine. This album came out in 92. There's a lot of these bands came out in 92 and disappeared right after, like right at the kind of the end of the, I guess, the thrash cycle. The album is called Mechanistic Termination. The vocalist is named Sean Smith. He sounds like Joey Belladonna. He's almost identical to Joey. And they have a very kind of Anthrax kind of style. I like them a lot. They're a very interesting band, but unfortunately they never got past that one album. And their lead guitarist, Mike Wells, passed away in 2022, which kind of sucks. But it's not talked about. I don't think many people know about it. I do. I found it and I have it because they remind me of Anthrax. But that's my top 10.
Cool. Jim?
Yeah, I only have 8 because I suck because I was like, and I didn't want to write anything down that I didn't know. And I was like trying to figure out every time I thought I had one, they had 2 albums.
Yeah, I
So
had that same problem too.
I was like, oh man, I thought these guys only had one. And
One, yeah.
so,
yeah.
but anyways, I've got 8. So, and I cheated on my number 1. You guys will laugh and probably make fun of me, but that's okay. Number 8, I went with Repulsion, the Horrified. They're from like 1986. They're more of a grindcore band, I think, but it was weird because I remember this band and I have it on cassette. It didn't get released until 89, but the album technically came out in 86. And then I remember this, and then when I was checking it out, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I remember on the cassette it said 1986, but I got it in like late, almost close to 90. So
and that album cover, Jim, is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that album cover.
Yeah.
And that has some thrashy components. Like some, so that's a good choice. It's on my list. That's why I mentioned.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I love it.
My number 7 will be Exorcist, like you had. That cool band, the 1986. That's pretty cool. Number 6 is Carnage. So a Swedish band, 1990. It's a death metal band, Dark Recollection. So I had a couple of death metal bands on here. Leading into my number 5 is Disincarnate.
Good one.
Dreamer of the Caring Kind. It's a really, really good album. I think that's a band that could have gone on to do so much.
Well, they're putting out a new
my number 4 was Probot. I don't know if you guys remember them.
Was who, sorry?
Probot.
With a P?
Probot. Probot.
Voivod kind of art cover. I know.
Yeah.
I know it well.
2004.
Yeah.
I thought it was a Voivod at first, but it wasn't. So yeah, I always thought. I remember it was on Much Music quite a bit and MTV and that, and I think they were slated to be kind of the next thing, and they just never really. Nothing really else came out. Berserker is one for me from Australia. I mean, I think that was on some of our lists. I think it was on mine. Yeah, Lost, 1990. Great album. And it's funny, since we've done our Australian top 10s, I wrote everybody's down, and I've been going back through and just, man, Australia's got a really cool thrash movement. So,
and they had a lot of one-hit bands.
Oh yeah,
I just didn't want to repeat on them again.
No, me.
I could have pulled 5 from that list who only had like one album. Yeah.
And then I picked a band called Vacant Grave, Life or Death from 1990 as well. Another cool thrash band. But my number 1, and this is a cheat, but you can't get any bigger than this in my mind, is Control Denied. And I know I'm cheating.
Yeah,
but it fits
one album.
Why is it
Fragile Art of Existence, 1999. I'm going to go with it. I understand it's Chuck's baby, but there was only ever one album from this band. And
I say, Jim, it's not cheating because Chuck gave up the vocals.
That's right. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But it's cheating, I guess, to some degree. But I feel more comfortable that he gave up the vocals. So it's
well, I grabbed this and I was like, you know what? The first thing that came to mind for me was like that. And Disincarnate should be my number 2 because that was the second one I came up with so quick. And even Repulsion. That album was really cool. I wonder why it took so long to come out. I mean,
I don't know.
Do you think they just couldn't promote it, or do you think that? I mean, I know it didn't probably sell very well, or do you think it got shelved? Or man, that's weird. 3 years and then it comes out, and then they don't have another one.
Great cover though.
Yeah. Anyways, that's my 8 of my top 10.
Okay. Well, I think we had 3, maybe 4.
Oh wow.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, like I guess my approach is yeah, like so I definitely could have did 10 thrash bands, but I don't
Yeah.
truly love them. So I like to stick to bands I love, and I
Yeah.
tend to think I don't know too many thrash fans, us three included, who don't love death metal
That's
and
Yeah.
true.
also love traditional. So I don't know, like I tend to view it if there's a cool release out there, regardless of the style, I'd like to share it. But
Sure.
um so yeah, so and these are not in. I wouldn't consider these in any order, but for me, it's a thrash album. I'll start with. So the band is called Silence, and the album is called Vision 1991. So this is a great thrash album. It's a cult classic. Like this thing, the CD got up to like $75, and
Wow.
Wow.
finally, like 2 years ago, Dive Bomb reissued it, and now you can get them for like a normal price. But it's funny, it's got like a guitarist, Sonny Mayo, who went on to do all kinds of 90s new metal stuff. But
Okay.
this album is like pure thrash. So, again, shout out to one of our viewers, Metalheaded, who got me into this. And he had two copies of these like $75 CDs, and
Never
he
heard of
was
it.
nice enough to give me one. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
uh, so yeah, it's a great album. I think nobody knows it, but it's worth checking out, and that's why Dive Bomb Records is amazing. Yeah, they do so much thrash that nobody knows, and the best thing they do is they put a sticker on every release and tell you the three or four bands that are more known that it sounds like, so you
Oh,
can
okay.
get a feel right off the bat. So then number two, Jimmy hit it, Disincarnate, James Murphy solo record. I mean, what can you say about that? Number three, I had Desecrator Subconscious release from 1991. So old school Swedish, Swedish, old school UK death metal. But this thing is totally a mix of like Death's Leprosy and then like a Dismember from Sweden. So it's an interesting combo. Then I have a Death Thrash album, Ripping Corpse, Streaming
Yeah.
with
Oh
the
yeah.
Dead,
Yeah.
Oh
uh,
man, I know them.
from 1991. This had Eric Rutan, who's popped up all over the place on guitar. So definitely has death metal in here, but there's some definite thrash components there. And then apparently they have an unreleased second album that's been sitting around for decades,
Yeah.
that for some reason or another has never been released. So
Hmm.
I don't know if that's true. I had Control denied, so Jim hit on that. And then here's a thrash. I can't believe you guys, nobody mentioned this guy. So Gamicide, Victims of Science,
Oh
from
yeah. Yeah. I've heard of it.
1989.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and I'm so excited. These guys are playing Hell's Heroes. I think they're from Texas.
Yeah.
But again, another really hard album to get, but it was just reissued on vinyl, and you can get the CD. It's like the guy, for those who might not know it, you may have seen it because it's like they have the toxic waste oil drums,
I've
and
seen it.
there's like two guys in the toxic suits who are
Yeah.
sort of like standing with them. So yeah, that's just a masterpiece, and completely old school Bay Area thrash. I think they're from Texas, but I could be
Okay.
wrong.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah,
No
yeah, yeah.
problem.
That's it, Jim. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, guys, I started playing it, but yeah, oh yeah, no, I don't remember this at all. I'm gonna
I
Yeah.
check it
do.
out.
I remember
Right
it.
in the heart of '89. So yeah, I love it. I love
And
it.
this is a 2005 reissue on Apple Music.
Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna finally get to see them. They've been on my bucket list for decades. Then Repulsion, Jim already talked about that. And then this one's a little, my last three are a little bit different, but they're three albums I love. So I'm going Dr. Butcher.
Oh
The
yeah. I know
Oh, that.
them.
self-titled album from '94. So this is
Yep.
John Oliva's. Yeah, I mean, he has like just his name solo band. He has John Oliva's Pain, but a lot of his stuff brought in the old, like the later Sabotage Orchestra stuff. This Dr. Butcher was 100% old school Hall of the Mountain King. So if that's the Sabotage you love, this is the album you should be
Yeah.
having. Most like diehard Sabotage fans think this Dr. Butcher album is better than the last like 5 Sabotage albums. So just depends on what you like. Number 9, I'm going some early US power metal, a band called Gargoyle.
Yeah.
They had one
I've heard of it.
self-titled. I think it's really good. Like I love the vocalist, right? The vocalist is Tim. Like I don't. I think you pronounce it Lockman, but he had this really amazing, clean vocal style, right? He was like a combo of like Dickinson and Jeff Tate, and maybe he wasn't quite at that level, but he was very close. So I just love listening to his vocals. Again, only very little success, but I think that's cool. And number 10, if you like progressive or technical metal as I do, there's one album that's prog technical on steroids. It's a one-off band from the where are they from? From Norway, yeah. The band's called Spiral Architect.
Yeah,
And it's an
okay.
album called The Septic's Universe
Mhm.
from 2000. And this thing, like, there's no way you're going to get into it without like 10 listens. It's incredibly complex songwriting, but if you give it the time and the many listens, it's fantastic. Like the musicianship and vocals are off the chart. Like I love this thing, and it's funny. I noticed recently, Sea of Tranquility was doing a show on albums that kind of like a one. I don't know. It may have been like prog albums that never quite went through or something. And this was Pete's like pick as well for like one of the best prog albums of all time, but that never went. The band never went any further. So that's why
Billy, what was the title of the Gargoyle album again?
it's self-titled.
Self-titled. Okay.
I mean, it's been on my list for decades to buy, and I've never found a copy.
Really?
You have it, Ken?
No, I don't. I know of it, but I don't have a copy of it.
I've never even seen a copy. So
I've never either. I've heard of it and I've listened to it, but I've never
yeah,
owned it. It would be cool to own if I could ever find
yeah.
one. You probably won't.
And I'm sure if it was out there, you'd have to spend a couple $100.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. Yeah, whether vinyl, CD, or whatever, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
All right.
Wicked.
Cool. So yeah, lots of good things.
That was a fun one. I liked doing my due diligence because every time I picked one, they had 2. I was like, oh, they've got 2. Okay. God.
I know. I had the same issue, the same problem, but it is what it is, right? It's nice to
All
do
right.
that.
So yeah, that's another fun-filled episode. So that wraps episode 44 of Thrashcast. So we have a pretty cool episode next week.
Yep.
Ken's the host. So we're going with Ken's pick, a complete classic, Destruction, Eternal Devastation from 1986. So that should
I'm
be
excited.
fun.
That'll be a good one.
Oh yeah, I love Destruction. Early Destruction is awesome.
And for those that are who may not remember or who haven't been with us for a while, we did do a Destruction album. I have no idea what the episode number was, but we did do Cracked Brain.
Yeah.
So that was
within the first 5.
In the first 5, okay. Go back in the history of horror metal sounds, and you'll find it.
We kind of caught. We did. Yeah, it's weird. We did Sodom, Creator, Destruction, all like within the first couple of months.
Okay, cool.
So and then we got the Tankard, but that was later on.
Yeah. All right. No, that makes sense. Okay. So again, thanks everyone for following along. As always, we greatly appreciate it. And we look forward to folks viewing next week's episode. It's going to be a good one. So again, thanks, Jim and Ken, for another fun-filled episode. And good night.
Good night.
Night.